It's first time I'm trying this Instagram live, so let's hope it's working.
Okay,
And I don't know
that's all
if
we can do.
that's all we can do for now. The thing is, I wonder if they have this. It would be cool also to have you as a collaborator, but now it's for today. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
the fact that you're on there is fine.
at a time. Yeah,
Hey, Sheena, can I call you just Sheena?
that's fine.
Because I know we both have PhDs, and I think it's important in certain settings to say the doctor.
Yeah,
It has its meaning, and it has its importance. But today here on Beyond the Thesis with Papa PhD, I think we can just skip it if it's good with you.
that's fine. I let people choose.
Awesome. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Especially, I'm super happy to be here with you. I find I'm really eager to see your new book that's coming up early next year, all about academic branding, which is a term that not everyone likes or understands,
Mhm.
and that's why when I got the proposition of having you on the show, I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. Plus
Yes.
all your other writings that you have from before. Also, I'm going to show the audience. So, can you tell me the name of the book? It's why Wakanda matters.
You want to start with why Wakanda matters? For
Well,
sure.
I just wanted to make sure that was the title, but I'm wearing my. I just got a. I just got this T-shirt this summer, and anyway, it was just I thought it was a cool thing to do because
Yeah.
of all the inspired work you've been doing, and kind of as a tribute to that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So the book Why Wakanda Matters is about what the film Black Panther can teach us about mental health. And it's based off of the first Black Panther film. And that book was actually a clue on Jeopardy. I think
Okay, yeah.
I've had the opportunity to have a lot of amazing experiences, awards, and all that. But being a clue on Jeopardy is definitely top, like two
Yeah,
that can happen.
it's kind of a bucket list type of thing.
Not even a bucket list, because like you can't plan for that.
No,
Right? All you can do is do the work. Like you can't, there's no like this is the step-by-step system to get your thing as a clue on Jeopardy, right? So it's just
no,
like
no, no.
one of
There's
these
no way to do.
things that's a result of doing the work that just happens on the journey.
Yeah. How great is that? Well, uh, Sheena, this is a live recording. We're now live on different platforms. Today, for the first time, we are live on Instagram. Let me actually check if through my phone I can verify that it's
Yeah, I can also check.
happening. I can see it here, but it's my live, so I don't know how I can see that. Anyway,
It's okay. Let's keep rolling.
yeah, I'll have tried. I just got the email before we started that this was now a new feature on this streaming platform.
Yeah, that's cool.
Um, but yeah, if I see that some people are watching, if you can tell us that if our video is fine, if our sound is okay, that would be great. And it's always great to say hi to listeners
Yes.
and to the audience. So feel free to comment, either if you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, or even YouTube. I will see your comments right here on my side. Oh, I see that Philippos Admasu has joined, and he's is watching. Hey, Philippos, nice to have you here with us. So this is a live recording. I'm going to start the actual podcast part, because what I do here, Sheena, I don't know if this is something that you've seen done, but uh, in the middle of this live, we will be recording what I then extract and create the audio version of the podcast from. So then, I'll give a little intro of you, and I'll let you present yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
But yeah, this is the format.
Okay.
All right, so we have some people watching. I'm, and it seems like I can't verify on Instagram that everything's working, but on LinkedIn and YouTube we are live.
Hmm.
So I'm ready to move on with the interview.
Okay.
There we go. I'm gonna silence my phone because it's always an important thing to do. And yeah, whenever you're ready, I'll just give a little pause, and we'll then go through your bio,
Okay.
and then we'll start from there.
Awesome.
All right. Let me just pull this up. All right. There we go. Welcome to this new episode of Beyond the Thesis with Papa PhD. This week, I have the great pleasure of having with me Dr. Sheena C. Howard. Sheena is the first Black woman to win an Eisner Award at San Diego Comic Con for her first book, Black Comics Politics of Race and Representation, in 2014. The Eisner is considered the Oscars of comics. Sheena has published comic books for both Marvel, Illusion of Fairness 2023, and DC Comics, Fresh Air in Philly 2021, and others.
Mhm.
She has written a graphic novel and a stage play for DMC from Run DMC. Published with Bloomsbury, Black Comics, Politics of Race and Representation in 2014. Chicago Review Press also, Encyclopedia of Black Comics 2017. Ben Bella Press, Why Wakanda Matters 2021. And that's why I have my Black Panther t-shirt today. And more. In addition, her work has received numerous book awards, including an American Library Association's Outstanding Reference Sourcebook Award and more. Plus the Jeopardy thing that you just mentioned before the recording started. She is also the subject of an Emmy-nominated episode of State of the Arts. Finally, Dr. Sheena Howard writes and ghostwrites for celebrities, CEOs, and social impact companies that seek to empower, inspire, and motivate. And today we are here to talk with her about this upcoming book that she has in the works, which is all about academic branding. Welcome to Beyond the Thesis, Sheena. It's really, really cool to have you here today. You have a stellar track of achievements, and I'm really honored to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. I'm super happy to be here.
So, Sheena, I see more people are mentioning that they've joined here on X, or anyway, X Twitter.
Mhm.
So it feels like there's interest for this question of academic branding. I've mentioned all of these books and different things that you've written around comics.
Mhm.
And now this book about academic branding. Can you talk a little bit about maybe where you're coming from and where you are kind of going forward to with this coming book?
Yes, so this academic branding book is a step-by-step guide for PhDs and those with master's degrees that are looking to increase their visibility, authority, and income without the expense of a publicist. And there are two reasons why this book is really important to me. And one is because there are a lot of people with PhDs who are either broker than they want to be, or just not making as much money as they thought they would when they entered higher ed. And this is everyone from tenured professors to adjuncts and everybody in between.
Mhm.
And I know for a fact that that is a tragedy, and it doesn't have to be that way, because anybody with a PhD has the expertise and know-how to make at least six figures just based off of their area of expertise. I know when we are in academe, it feels like everybody has a PhD because everybody around us does, but we are still a very small percentage of the population, and this makes you special. And
Mhm.
because of that, you can monetize the six figures. The other reason why this book is so important to me is because there are a lot of people out here who have big platforms, can disseminate information to a lot of people who are not actually subject matter experts. And I think the world is a better place when people with PhDs, the people who have actually studied the thing and became an expert in something that is really, really, really important to them, have the know-how to be able to disseminate information to a wide population of people, because the tools are there. It's just that the average academic does not know how to reach the masses, because we've been in academe for a long time, and a lot of the things that we learn in academe is the complete opposite of getting visibility, increasing your income outside of academia. This is super important, especially considering, I don't know how it is where you are, but in the United States, there's a decline in the student population in college classrooms. Like, there are not as many butts in seats in college classrooms, particularly for liberal arts universities and some public universities. And because of that, your tenure won't save you if your department closes or your university closes. Universities are closing at rapid rates in the United States. And it is in everyone's best interest in academia to understand how to leverage their academic credentials.
This is it's super super timely. This is not a new issue, but it feels like more and more people are taking interest and putting it out there. Now, is there a backstory to writing this book? Is there because you have your PhD experience, you've had colleagues around you. Is there a story behind the reason of one day you waking up and saying, "I need to write something about this"?
Yes. Well, at my university, one day we were called to an emergency meeting and all the faculty had to come to this room, and they listed all of the programs and departments that would be effectively terminated at that moment.
Right.
And so that was the first time it occurred to me that, one, your tenure will not save you, because it doesn't matter if you have tenure if your department is gone, right? And two, it occurred to me that I am a single mom and this is my only source of income. If I happen to be a person that gets laid off, I'm screwed, and I didn't want to be screwed. And that's the beginnings of it. And then I went through a divorce and I had all these crazy things happen where I became a single mom. And so it was imperative for me to start monetizing this PhD and all of the work and skills and accolades that I had, because previous to that, I got a lot of media coverage and visibility, but I didn't care about the monetization part, right? I was like I would be on ABC News and BBC or whatever, but I wasn't monetizing. And so, I got to the place where now I make multiple six figures. I make more money than any university can pay me. Even if I was an administrator, I make way more. And so I am teaching people with master's degrees and PhDs how to do that, because based on the direction of education for people that have PhDs particularly, I believe this is in your best interest to learn how to increase your visibility, authority, and income.
Of course, and I would say even if you end up staying in academia,
Yeah, I believe.
the future, the social media, online presence is now part and parcel of what we are as active people in our communities, including the scientific community, the research community. So if you hone those skills, they will serve you in academia too. That's the way that I see it in any case.
Yeah,
so it's a win-win.
Because higher ed is slow to change doesn't mean you have to be slow to change. And when you get media coverage and visibility for your work, it increases your Google Scholar citations and all of that stuff anyway, because just more eyes on your work.
Now, this is something that has been covered on Beyond the Thesis a lot in a lot of different conversations. This question of the disconnect between being, a grad student, being in your PhD, and the outside world. And some of it is expected. It's kind of a you're digging a deep tunnel to find this diamond at the end of the of the tunnel, which is going to be your thesis and what you publish. But I always try to tell people you need to keep an antenna outside to know what's happening and to get ready for whenever that journey finishes and that journey ends. Now, in your case, were you able during your graduate school journey to already start and you had other stuff happening in your life, of course, but to already start thinking, okay, I need to prepare my exit, and did you find any resources or support around you in academia, in graduate school, to help you do that, or did you have to really build your own tools and find your own way to create an exit strategy?
Yeah, I had to build my own tools, and that's why I wrote this book, so people have a pathway to do it without having to spend the 10 years of figuring it out. I didn't think about an exit strategy until all of the faculty were called in that room and our departments and things were terminated or eliminated that day. And then compounded by the fact that, I became a single mom and all that stuff. But I have been building my brand since I was a PhD student. Like, I never, ever just wanted my work to be in the basement of a college library. It just didn't make sense to me. So as much as academics teach us to only speak to academics, and that just didn't work for me, because I wanted my work to help the people I was actually researching and writing about, and that was super important to me. So I was already like getting media coverage for my very first article publication, which happened to be on the way Barack Obama switches his language up depending on the cultures he's talking to, depending on the races he's talking to. And that was in that got featured in like a newspaper. So this is just getting my work outside of higher ed has always been important to me. The exit strategy was my tenure won't save me moment. Actually being in higher ed and seeing the decline.
Can you in a minute just quickly tell listeners and viewers what your PhD was about?
Yes.
What subject? Yeah.
My PhD is in intercultural and rhetorical communication, and I did my dissertation on a comic strip called The Boondocks, which actually the comic strip, most people will probably know the animated television show that was on Comedy Central. So I did my dissertation on the language and aesthetics of the Boondocks comic strip.
Excellent. It's always amazing to me to because I'm from the life sciences side of things, and humanities, social sciences are always kind of a surprise to me. The subjects that are and how important it is to explore things other than just hard science and and cells and DNA, etc. Now, so these tools that you built, this method that you ended up creating, and that you're actually, I'm gonna put the link. It's a long link, but your book is going to be published early 2024.
Yes, February 27th. So a couple months.
A couple of months. It's going to be here. The link is for Penguin Random House, so I think it's going to be widely available to anyone interested. You can take note of the link and take note of the date. It's going to be just after, just before March. I don't know. It could be an Easter present for a loved one that's doing their PhD.
That's right.
Now, do you have, because there's so many people out there doing PhDs, they're so focused, and you know this, right, in what they're doing. There's this tunnel vision effect, and there's a kind of a mental burden of all that's going on. So is there, for the sake of a podcast, which is a kind of this short meeting, are there like 2 or 3 main pillars of this strategy, of these tools, that you can share with the viewers and with the audience?
Yeah, so it's really 9 steps, but if I can just truncate them, it's just build, engage, publicize, and monetize. So it's like, know how to translate your work for a 7th grade audience. If you can't explain your work and research to a 7th grader, you have to learn how to do that, right? Because the average reading level in the United States is like 7th grade. I actually think it got lower, right? So translating your work, thinking about your goals outside of higher ed. So when you're trying to get tenure, all of your goals, your life is built around tenure, but you got to think a little bit beyond that. To like, what do you want to do outside of higher ed with your work? Whose life do you want to change? Like, why are you doing this research? And then the engage part is just getting your social media strategy. I won't go into detail unless you ask, but it's just all about the media strategy, getting visibility, doing things like TEDx talks and TED Talks, getting influencers and celebrities to write for your academic books. So I've had like people like Henry Louis Gates write the foreword to one of my books. I had the costume design artists for the film Black Panther write the foreword to Why Wakanda Matters, like teaching people how to do that stuff. And then the publicize and monetize phase is like making six figures on
That's amazing. Six figures is impressive for sure, especially if you come, because there's this culture in academia of kind of a monastic culture of, this is not about the money, it's
Yep,
about the science.
yep,
But in the end, uh, in the end, the bills are there. You need to
yep,
pay. If you have children, you need to feed them. If you live somewhere, you need to pay for that. So it's kind of a fallacious kind of rhetoric, but it's
yep.
a culture that's there. It's been there for a long time.
Culture. Exactly. And
I
so,
think, yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. And that is a problem because that's kind of the stuff you have to unlearn if you really want to make an impact and leave a legacy and make money while you do it, because money is important, and higher ed will have you believe that you should give your stuff away for free and do all these presentations and conferences for free and do speaking engagements for an honorarium, which the definition of it is no charge. So basically you're spending your gas money, your time, and everything to go speak to somebody else's audience, and you're actually going into debt to do it because you got to get there, you got to prepare. Sometimes you got to get on an airplane for $0 or $500. And if you look at the handwriting on the wall, that's just not setting you up for just life success, in my opinion.
Now, so we're again. I'm painting this picture. You're. And I've been there. You've been there. You're a new graduate student. You get into your PhD program. You're excited. You're kind of maybe overwhelmed with all that's happening.
Yeah.
You may be happy that you have some funding for that. But what I'm getting from you is that even from day one, you need to think much farther than that. You need to kind of, the overwhelm is there, but you need to be strategic about your life, which is not, you don't live just those 5 years, 3, 5, 6 years of PhD, depending on where you are. Hopefully you're going to live 80 plus years.
Yes.
So this PhD graduate school part should be a springboard for what comes after, and not a hindrance in any way. How can you, from this mindset of, okay, my PI expects so much from me, the community, my colleagues, I feel like I don't even have time to go visit my family. How am I going to have time to think and plan ahead for something else than tenure, etc.? What are ways to have this internal conversation, and kind of setting aside some time to take care of the future you?
Oh, I love the way you worded that. The future you is super important. It's an iterative process, right? You don't do it all at once, but you start small. So if I were getting a PhD for the first time today and I was starting from the beginning and I knew I wanted a PhD and I knew I wanted to be a faculty member, let's just say I know I want to go into higher ed and try to get tenure. The most important thing is getting tenure, right? But within that, on the process of that, I would start by getting media coverage, practicing turning the research that you're already doing into something that you can sell to the everyday person. And there's a method to this, obviously, but being able to sell your ideas to the media would be the first thing that I would work on, and start getting your work covered in newspapers, in local papers. Start there, and think about this in seasons. So as a PhD student, no, you're probably not going to be asking for $5,000, $10,000 for a speaking engagement, although it doesn't hurt to try. But here's the problem. When you are doing your PhD, people are going to ask you to do speaking engagements. When you're a faculty, people just ask you to do speaking engagements. So everybody gets a little trickle of those. The problem is people that have tenure or who have been in academia for 10, 15 years are still doing speaking engagements for $500. When doing speaking engagements for $500 should have only been a small season of your life. And that season probably was back when you were doing the PhD. So if you say, I'm going to spend 3 years doing my PhD and I'm going to do it, all the speaking engagements for free or at low cost for this season, you have to understand that season needs to end, because the next season you need to be charging $1,500, $3,500. I talked to a provost the other day, a whole provost that's doing speaking engagements for $500, and he's upset. And I'm like, listen, you should be charging $3,500 or more. You have nothing else to prove. You did the work. Higher ed has just trained you that you should be doing this and spending your own money to get to the speaking engagement. So people need to think about it in seasons and be clear on when they're in one season and when they're going to go to the next, right? Because I'm never going back to the season when I did speaking engagements for $3,500. I'm never going back. I'm way past that season. Does that mean I turned down a lot? Yes, that's fine. Because you missed that season. Like I went through I stayed in the season of doing speaking engagements for significantly less than what I should have been doing them for too long. And this is why I'm helping people to understand this part of it.
I really, really, really love this image of seasons and of you kind of maturing, and so your needs and your requirements maturing too. I really, really love it, and it makes sense in the in society at large, just not in the mindset of higher ed usually. Now, this I really love it, and anyway, I just still want to come back to the beginning of this answer that you gave me. Start getting published. This can be fear inducing. Oh, how do I get into a paper? How do I, how do I get published on a local I don't know, magazine or any media outlet? Do you have advice on slowly dipping your toe in the pool and getting getting in contact with the person who will get your things published? Because I think it's a kind of a black box for a lot of people, including myself. I wouldn't know how to get published in a local newspaper.
So here's what I think. Sometimes we let feelings get in the way of things instead of facts. And if you have a goal and you want your work to be covered in media outlets or local media outlets, whatever, going back and forth in your head about your feelings about it. Oh, like these other academics are going to think negatively of me, or, oh, they think I'm just trying to be on TV, or, oh, nobody's going to want my work. To me, that is unnecessary energy that's actually setting you back, because the fact is, if you want to get media coverage and visibility, you have to start pitching your stuff. That's just a fact. If you want X, you got to do Y, and the feelings of it don't matter. And so if we can take the feelings and just push them aside because we understand the facts of it, then we can just start doing the work. And the work involves, when you pitch your stuff, you learn. If the producer or the editor didn't respond, you follow up. If the producer or editor responded and said, no, thank you, you learn something, and then you go pitch the next thing. Now, I teach a whole framework and philosophy around this that we don't have time to talk about, but I'll share one little snippet quickly. I call this the ladder effect. Think about a ladder that's just going all the way up. You don't start at the top of the ladder. You start at the very first step. And the very first step is local newspapers, like your community. I'm not even talking about anything big. Like your little community where you live would love to hear from you. You just haven't reached out to them. They would love to know that they have a person doing a PhD and amazing work on climate change or whatever it is in their community. They want to feature you. You just never reached out. And as you climb up the ladder from local, and then your local NPR. So I don't know if they have NPR, National Public Radio, where you are, but every city, state has their own NPR. They want to hear from you. I'm telling you. And so then you just start climbing up little by little. And the cool thing is, sometimes the local outlets like local Fox News or local ABC, when you get on those local stations, sometimes there's literally someone's job, like an intern, to look through local things so they can put you on the bigger platform. So this is how I got on Good Morning America Digital. It was somebody's job to look for little local stories, and they found mine, and they reached out to me like, hey, I saw this thing that you did on ABC. We want to feature you on Good Morning America. So it's status roles, because you can get to the next big media outlet if the previous one that you did before that is close enough to the next one you're trying to get to. So like if I'm on David's podcast, and let's just say you have 1,000 downloads a month, I'm just making these numbers up, and then I go try to pitch a podcast that gets 1,500 downloads a month. Now I'm probably going to land that next one because they just saw I was on David's podcast. It's a little bit similar, but for me, it's a little bit of a step up.
Of
Before
course.
you know it, you're on places like the Breakfast Club where I've been on, or wherever else you want to go. So think about it as a letter. Use the previous thing as the psychological hook to get the next producer to book you.
Hmm. And do you have again, for people listening, do you have job titles of people who usually are the people you contact? Because I think also people don't know this. I open a newspaper, or what's the job title I'm looking for to say, okay, this is the person I need to contact.
Yeah, if you want to get like your work featured in like a newspaper, you want to pitch the editor, not
Okay,
like
directly.
not like the owner of the paper or the editor, right? And not even necessarily sometimes the writer, because each article will have the writer's name. Sometimes the writers, particularly you want to pitch writers that have written about things that are related to your topic. So I'll pitch people that have covered comics and branding, right? So, and you can easily find them on X, formerly known as Twitter. They're all there, and you pitch them. And so yeah. And then like for big shows, you're not really pitching the host. You're finding out who the producer is and pitching the producer.
Okay. The producer.
Sometimes you can, like, for those of people watching that know what the Breakfast Club is, it's a really popular show here in the United States. I got in on that by pitching Charlemagne, who's one of the main hosts. It was a whole process. It was a whole plan that I planned out and executed, and then but eventually you have to go through the producer. So it makes more sense to just go right to the producer, because he just sent me the producer's email address, and then I had to pitch the producer all over again.
This is great, and I really like the fact that, because I have a feeling that a lot of us are maybe more on the introverted side, us that are in research. Not all of us, but a lot of us.
Oh yeah,
And
PhDs don't like to talk to people.
Yeah, and it feels like what you're saying is start where it's comfortable. So start where the barrier to entry is lower, like the local, and then you kind of slowly have this ladder effect, like you said, of going up and up the rungs of the ladder to higher tiers and higher tiers. But it's gonna be much less menacing than going straight away to the big show.
Yeah, you gotta use psychology and status roles. And understand those in order to get onto the next level of the shows you want to be on. At this point, I don't have to pitch people anymore, right? I did all that work. This is why I'm teaching people how to do it. And then eventually, you do it enough. Do you get to the point where, your name is attached to the keywords that you want to be talking about? If someone types in Black comics in Google, something about me is going to come up on the first page. I don't care where you are, because I've done the work, right?
Of course.
So that's what you want, so that you don't have to do this work anymore, and you can charge 10,000 plus for speaking engagements. Here's the thing that drives me crazy. There are people that are talking about the same things that PhDs are talking about, that don't have PhDs, that are charging like 50,000 for speaking engagements, 20, and they don't have PhDs, y'all. This is what and I know these people because I'm in a bunch of creative entrepreneurship communities, and it's like I meet these people with PhDs, and they're like, oh, nobody will pay me that. I'm like, I know somebody that doesn't even have your credentials that is out here charging 10 times more than you.
Talking about your stuff.
Talking about your stuff when you actually took the time to get a PhD.
Yeah. No, and actually that brings me to my next question that I wanted to ask, which is, there is this, and we've already mentioned it, but this like kind of warped relationship with money in graduate school, in academia, and we've mentioned that it's and the other thing is, there's this dislike, or even this loathing of marketing, sales, marketing, and branding. It's I've heard people in academia tell me, oh, branding, it's not, I don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. Yet here we are today talking about academic branding. Can you talk about that? I see you smiling, so you probably have something.
You already have a brand. The question is, this is again feelings versus facts. I feel a way about branding. When someone Googles your name, that is your brand. If you don't like what comes up, You can either just sit there and not like it, or you can control it and change it. Those are your two options. Now, everybody doesn't want to increase their visibility, authority, and income. So if you're happy with where you are, great. But if you're not, then you have to do this work if you say you want the thing that you want. Now, some academics are cool, like, and that's great. For the people that want this, like, if you type your name in Google and you don't like what comes up, you got to do something else. And that's just, it doesn't matter how you feel about it. That's just the fact.
And from what I hear and from what you say, you have found spaces where you're part of that space now. You are
Mhm.
welcome. Having a PhD doesn't make you an oddball or a weirdo.
Oh, I'm
You're
weird. Yeah,
you're
I'm weird.
you're an
Let's be
expert.
clear.
Because I think people also, like you just mentioned, you said, "Oh, I'm fine where I am." Some people may be saying, "Oh, I chose this path. It's a path of humility and anonymity." And
Mhm.
by the way, it's not, the I don't know, media. The Breakfast Club is no place for a PhD, and you seem to be totally breaking all of those
Right.
assertions.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've went viral on Twitter a number of times, and I have people. I would never work with this person. You're charging so much for speaking engagements. Okay, well, I don't want to work with you either. Like, it's just like you do your thing, I'll do mine, and everybody do what makes them happy.
Now, I think everyone would gain from uh, understanding that they have a place. Even if they chose to become researchers, to follow a scientific endeavor for these many years, and to not go straight away into a job and into a career, but to do this, that they are entitled at the end of this journey of the PhD and the researcher journey to be productive members of society, but also well paid, happy, good mental health, etc. Um, uh, and it is known that, for example, I just mentioned it, mental health is an issue
Mhm.
in graduate school, in universities, and it feels to me like um, there, it's all based on this, or it can strongly be based on this rhetoric of you need to focus on just this and forget whatever's
Yeah.
outside. You
Yeah.
need to not try to put yourself forward too much. It's all about the science. You need
Mhm.
to not think about money too much, because that's
Yes.
not what it is about. And I don't know. I kind of I'm looking for a way to tell people who are listening or watching that all of this that we're talking about is healthy, and it's going
Oh,
to make for a healthier society at large, but for a healthier research community.
and
And
happier people. Listen, listen. It is great to get tenure. I'm a full professor. I love the educational system. I love learning. For a long time, like, I was only good at, like, really good at sports and really good at school. I lucked out in which those two things are actually very good things to be really good at.
Mhm,
Um, what I realized in becoming a full professor was that I became a full professor very young. So I started my PhD when I was 23. I started my PhD when I was 23. I finished when I was 26. Went right into a tenure track job after 1 year of working somewhere else, and I just went straight through. So I became a full professor like before I was 40,
mhm,
way before. And what I realized is that this is the most I'm going to get paid for the next like 30 years of my life. Because once you are a full professor, there is no promotion after that. So I'm just going to stay at the same pay rate for the next 20, 30 years of my life. So, like, and a lot of people would go the administration route because they want more money. That's
mhm,
not their passion, right? They're not passionate about like being an academic dean. Some people are, but some people really just do it because they want the 150,000, 200,000. What I am introducing to people is a new avenue. And this avenue makes me feel good because it's attached to literally my life mission, vision, and purpose. Like, I get to be creative. I get to do all the fun little silly things that I always wanted to do. I get to write comic books. And I think there are enough people in this world that have passions, that have PhDs, that want to do some other things. And I'm showing them a new path.
Hmm. Yeah. Now, again, the book is not out there. I'm just saying it for people who are listening today as we're recording. But I asked you for kind of three pillars. You said that you actually had kind of nine pillars or nine
There's
steps,
9 steps.
and so it kind of got me to think. Uh, these steps you develop them by looking back at your experience, and clearly this you've already told this story about this meeting where it was kind of a watershed moment of, okay, I need to have a plan
Yeah.
if all of this goes down the drain. Has there been, in all these other steps, are there one or two steps that have come also from other aha moments that happened for you? Like, because I again, I'm always thinking of the audience and thinking maybe these will kind of stick with them and they'll be able to implement them in their own journey.
Yeah. Being called in the room, realizing if I lost this job, I did not even understand how to make my own money. Big problem. 2, became a full professor, understood that this is what I'm going to be getting paid for the next 20 years. Not okay with that. 3, I went through a divorce, and I literally had no choice. Like, I needed money. And so, like, a lot of successful people are running away from something and running towards something, right? The best motivation is when you're running away from something and running towards something. So in my case, I'm like literally running away from being broke, right? I had to move with my mom. Me and my son are sleeping on my mom's couch. I have a whole PhD. So I'm literally running away from ever being broke again. So I created the Power Your Research program because I started to learn how to make money. And the way that you make money is by helping people and not necessarily doing what you love, but doing what you are good at. Right. And so, and I am running towards a better life. Right. Like there's literally a life that there's a vision for my life that some of the teaching for me is not necessarily anymore connected to higher ed. I just like teaching. And I want to teach more than just 25 kids in a classroom. I want to teach millions. And so I'm running toward a particular vision for me, but you can't even think about your vision for your personal life when you're just trapped in higher ed, only doing the things that higher ed tells you to do. Another thing is not really to get into the history of like the educational system, but like school was created to teach people how to be workers. Like school wasn't created to teach you how to make your own money. It was literally created to teach people how to stay in line and follow directions. And like, so it's not surprising that the longer you stay in, the more you get indoctrinated and have no clue how to make your own money based on your own brand and stuff. And I'm not making a judgment about this. These are just right. It's just facts.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Now, the other thing that I find interesting about your work is it's not for people, because a lot of the conversations here on Beyond the Thesis have been on things, jobs or careers or life choices outside academia, and you're within, and you're talking to people who are in academia, and I think that's super interesting, and not only interesting but important. Now, can you share how after making these choices and choosing this path and this vision to aspire to and to walk towards and to work towards, how it changed your life in academia, your academic uh, journey?
I mean, first of all, I'm living the life of my dreams. Like the process that I started with this 5 or 6 years ago, I'm amazed. I'm amazed at myself. And I don't really think about academia that much, to be honest. And there's a certain privilege in being a full professor, I think, where right you've done the work, you put in the time to have certain privileges that someone who is untenured doesn't. So let me just acknowledge that. But it's just what I want to do is just so much bigger than a college classroom, and my university is just unbelievable. So I don't even know how to answer that question because it's just so much bigger than 25 kids in a class each semester.
Mm.
And that's all I can say about it.
Mhm. Okay, and going back to the 9 points that we didn't mention, we just
Yeah.
just started talking. Are there, and we're getting to the end, towards the end of the interview here, but are there one or two that are kind of easy, kind of low hanging fruit, and that someone who's just starting and who might be thinking, oh, I don't have time, or it's impossible to do anything but being
Yeah.
at the lab or whatever. Do you have any like one or two of them that you can share so people can first get a glimpse of what's in the book, and two, start creating this personal branding space in their lives starting today?
Yes, you actually just mentioned one without probably realizing it. So no tactics, no strategies, none of the actionable things that I've talked about on this interview are going to work if you don't start with mindset. The very first step of the Power Your Research program, as well as the academic branding book, is mindset. There are high correlations between people with PhDs and imposter syndrome. It's like the more educated you get, the more imposter syndrome you have. And so there are some almost universal mindset issues that all academics have. Now, of course, there are going to be some people that don't, but starting with mindset first, understanding that you are valuable. Your research is valuable, right? It's financially, your research is valuable. Understanding that you don't need another certificate or degree or anything like that in order to go be a coach or to charge higher consulting rates, right? Higher ed trains us to value external validation. You do get on the test, you get an A, right? Um, Getting your PhD is about external validation. Someone gives you a degree and tells you you did a good job.
Hmm.
The mindset issue is that you need to value intrinsic validation just as much, if not more. The reason why a lot of PhDs have imposter syndrome is because we've been trained to value external validation more. And so the reward, it has to be intrinsic, right? Like you don't need somebody to give you an A to feel good about yourself, to feel like you're worthy of charging $5,000 for a speaking engagement, right?
Hmm.
You just value yourself, right? We PhDs and people that are highly educated need permission first, right? In order to ask a question, we have to raise our hand and be called on. The mindset thing is you have to choose yourself. You don't wait to be called on, right? And there's just so many things you have to unlearn. In higher ed, if somebody else writes your paper, that's called cheating. You could get kicked out of the university for that. In business, it's called outsourcing, which you absolutely should be doing, right? And so the first thing that I would tell anybody is the mindset. You got to work on your mindset and understand that it is okay to not only want to want your work to go far and beyond a university's basement.
Hmm. Hmm. Very good. It's key. It's a tough one because again, we are submerged in this high psychological pressure.
Woo! Yeah.
You know it.
Right. See, and also just one more thing, because I know we got to end. I don't care about the name of a university, right? I've never went to like some Ivy League school, right? All those superficial things. To me, it's never about the name of the university or that kind of thing. It's about what you do with the degree, right? Like,
Mm.
okay, and I'm also like I was in a PhD program with a lot of people that cared about that stuff, right? Right? They wanted to go to the big name school and the R1, and that's fine if that's what you want to do, but that stuff never, it wasn't about that for me, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and again, different people, of course, will have different, uh, imperatives, and some of them will have, a push from the family, from the
Right.
there's so many variables
So
that can come into this. But I do, if I look back to this, almost hour that we've been talking together, what it feels to me is that the message that you're bringing is that the tendency of the system is to anonymize you.
Hmm.
You get into this system, you get into graduate school, and you are contributing to this bigger thing. So because of this rhetoric of you contributing to the bigger thing, the other side of the mirror is you're small. You're a
Yes.
small little thing contributing to this big one. Don't rock the boat. Don't try to put yourself forward too much.
Hmm.
But the underlying non thing that is not said is you are still a citizen of the country, of the community where you are, and once you exit this experience, you will need to swim in that pool of the community, of the socioeconomic context, and then you'll have to follow the same rules as everyone else.
That's right.
And what you're saying is, sorry, I'm not putting words in, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I'm getting from what you're saying is you can't forget your present you, your past you, and your future you
Yes.
when you're going through this 3 4 5 years depending again on where you are, experience of being in graduate school, because in the end you'll have to be catching up, and you don't want to be
Yes.
catching up after
Yes.
all this time of working. I don't know if this, well, clearly you
Yes.
seem to be agreeing. And because the reason I really wanted to have this conversation with you is because I've had this term branding and academic branding maligned, and I think we need to forget our bad feelings about words and
Hmm.
just think about this simple concept.
Hmm.
You are you throughout the experience, before, during, and after, and you are a citizen, and you're a contributor to the society throughout too. So you need to be able to have a voice from that standpoint, although you're also working towards being a researcher, someone who publishes, etc. And I think often, and it was my case, I know it, you end up being in this tunnel vision thing, and even starting to drop things from your life that you like to do, that you to to reach this goal. And I don't think it's healthy. And I think that conversations like this are very healthy, and I really appreciate that you're putting it out there, through your experience, through your prism, but in a very very energetic way.
Thank you. I appreciate you, David. Thank you for the platform. Thank you for your time. It's been amazing.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. If people want to reach out to you, I'm going to put the link here again for the future link for people who want to. Can they order the book right away?
Yeah, they can pre-order it. Yes,
They
please
can
do.
pre-order. So it's on Penguin Random House. It's going to be easy. It's called I don't know. It's called Academic Branding. Let me see. It's coming down here. That's why I'm waiting. Well,
Yes.
Academic Branding by Sheena C. Howard. You'll find it there. You can pre-order it. But if people were really interested by our conversation, want to reach out to you and ask you questions, or thank you for your words or whatever, what's the best way for them to do so?
You can find me everywhere at Dr. Sheena Howard. So LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, all the places.
Cool, very cool. So there's another tip that Sheena is not saying, but that she's doing is use the same the same username in all the platforms. Makes
Branding,
it
baby.
it's
Yes.
amazing. It makes it much
Took me a
easier.
while. It took me a while to get that all situated. Woo.
Awesome. Sheena, this has been a real pleasure. It's been really refreshing. It's always talking about money. It's always uh, difficult. Well, depending on the communities, but in this community that we are, it tends to be difficult. And I think I thank you for so candidly, so easily, so simply talking about your experience, talking about why you are writing this book, and bringing the this energy of you are worth more than just your PhD, than just your degree, to the community out there. I think it's super useful. It's super necessary, and I think it's just going to help raise the community at large.
Awesome.
This is it, Sheena, for the recording part. We're still live, but
Okay.
that's it. I really had uh, a great time talking with you.
For
It
sure.
seems that you enjoyed it too. I want to thank everyone who was on the live, and I see here. So there's Filipos, Oz, Sweni, Andrew, Hessa, Venkata. Here Dr. Venkata says, "Great initiative, guys! Thank you so much for being here with us.
Yes.
And yeah, I'll be here soon with other interviews. Next week I have two, so
Awesome.
it's a pre-Christmas extra extra beyond the thesis. But yeah, thanks for everyone. Thanks to Sheena for sharing of her time to be here, and I'll see you in a future live recording of Beyond the Thesis.
All
Bye
right.
everyone.
Yeah.